What up, what up? It's the Athletic Hockey Show for March 25th, 2026. I'm Sean Gentili, joined by Sean McIndoe, Frankie Corrado. Fellas, I'm stunned. I'm stunned that the 15-game night in the NHL actually delivered. We had real movement, real games of consequence between all those teams, plenty of playoff implications and all that. So we're getting down to business early, man. I don't want to waste time on pleasantries. McIndoe, what was your big moment coming out of the full slate last night?
The Detroit Red Wings on home ice in a must-win game against a team that had played the night before, kind of. The Rangers didn't exactly make the Senators sweat on Monday night, but Ottawa had played the night before, had to travel in. The Red Wings were sitting at home, all rested, ready to go, and they lose in regulation, a real loss. And I tell you right now, I have seen enough. The Ottawa Senators are in the playoffs, and I don't think Detroit's making it. This was a disaster of a home ice loss for the Red Wings.
Buddy, disaster, like catastrophic. Think about what has gone on here. The Red Wings didn't have Larkin. They got Larkin back. They have beaten the Ottawa Senators 3 times already this year. And Ottawa didn't have Sanderson, didn't have Shabbat, didn't have Jensen. They played the night before, and they couldn't take advantage of any of that. The biggest game of the year. The Red Wings are the team that's been in a playoff spot the longest, that seems to be spiraling right now. That is a catastrophic loss at the wrong time. But give a lot of credit to the Sens, man. Like that Carter Yakimchuk steps in. He has a between-the-legs assist that leads to a goal. And then he takes his time, walks it in, and rips one for his first NHL goal. That's big stuff, man. Like here's my big thought on the Sens is that they have played really, really stingy defensive hockey for a long time, and it hasn't wavered. And the last piece of the puzzle was just to get the goaltending that they needed. And Linus Ullmark had a great game last night, and now they're missing some of the big pieces on defense. And this whole time that the team was carrying the goaltending, like now it's time that the goaltending carries a little bit of things here. And Ullmark did his job last night in a big way.
And when you say they needed the goaltending, they did not need the goaltending to be phenomenal. They didn't even need the goaltending to be okay. They needed the goaltending to be not terrible, not the absolute bottom dregs of the league. And it's been a lot more than that lately. This is a scary team that somebody's going to go up in the playoffs, and a lot of people who, for valid reasons, have not paid a lot of attention to the Senators for most of the year, are going to be surprised when this team is an extremely tough out for whichever one of the top seeds they end up playing, because they have had all of the pieces for a lot of this year other than that goaltending. And if it's there, just average goaltending, look out.
And it's been good enough against the teams that they're in the race with, too. Like, I go back to the outcome for them against the Islanders last week. I mean, that's a crazy last, final seconds goal from Brady Tkachuk, but it which is huge in and of itself, but it also gives them a regulation win over the Islanders, right? And here we are again talking about another regulation win, this time over the Red Wings, because that's like the standard line here when we talk about playoff races, and we talk about teams making up, how difficult it is to make up points down the stretch. It's 3-point games. There's loser points. There's lots of teams that are involved. The way around that is to beat those teams in regulation and get 2 points when they get none. It's pretty easy when that happens, and that's what we've seen from Ottawa for the last games.
The Senators have as many regulation wins as the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, they are right there, and the thing with Ottawa has been they've been cooking for a couple of weeks now, but it felt like every night they would get a big win, and then you sit back and you look at the scoreboard, and everybody else would win. Or everyone else would at least get a point because of those 3-point games. And so you're sitting there going, man, they're just not making the progress. Last night, it finally clicked into place. Boston loses in regulation. You look around, other teams that they're chasing are losing in regulation, and that is what sends them up the standings. And yeah, maybe it's only 2 points gained, but that's what they needed. And they're now holding down a spot. Still some work to do. But boy, when you look at the some of the trends around the rest of those teams, it's not hard to see who's fading and who's staking their claim.
DGB, to your point about the goaltending, like they're 9-2-1 in the month of March. That's with .895 save percentage. That's not like that's not anything crazy, but it's good enough for them. And like about everything that's going on around the league. And last night felt chaotic. Like Montreal beats Carolina, Columbus wins, the Islanders lose, Ottawa wins, Boston loses. And then you go to the Western Conference, it's like, hey, Nashville keeps winning. The Jets win again. Vegas loses. Like, it almost felt like, remember in Dumb and Dumber when they're sitting there and they're like, we got no food, we got no clothes, our pets' heads are falling off. It's like, the Canadians win, the Senators win, the Red Wings lose, our pets' heads are falling off. Like, it was complete and utter madness. And my takeaway now with the two teams that feel like they're in a little bit of a free fall in the Eastern Conference is Detroit, and it's been trending that way. Like, they're 3-5-2 over their last 10, and the Islanders, who are they're 500. They're 500 over their last 10. But as you guys know, 500 does not cut it when the best teams recently are all in that fight for a playoff spot.
Yeah, because and it's we don't love where the Islanders are for sure, but they're also a point behind Pittsburgh and 2 points behind the Islanders, or 2 points behind the Blue Jackets. 500 doesn't cut it, and they have one more game played than both of those teams. But it really is wild, that we can sit here and say a team like New York or Detroit or whatever, we don't like the way they're playing, but also, man, it's still so close, and it's because of these regulation outcomes now. Like, Pittsburgh couldn't scratch a point out of Colorado last night. Like, didn't come particularly close, right? And same goes for New York. Same goes for Detroit. So it's interesting. Frankie, you guys mentioned the Preds. Do we want to look over at the Western Conference? I mean, the fact that they're not just in the mix, but kind of they're 3 points in a playoff spot now, boys. After last night's results, I think people were waiting to some extent for the Pacific Division's crumminess to come to roost, and I feel like that's finally what we've seen over the last week or two. Like, we knew that the Kings and the Kraken were flawed to a very, very real degree, and if this feels more like the Preds benefiting from that than anything else to me at least.
Man,
five straight wins for them. Good God.
You got to give the Predators so much credit considering the way the season started and how essentially everyone was up for grabs over there. Like, they were open for business, and there's a lot of pride in that room with those guys saying, like, we're not going to go down this way. And they've played really well, but it comes at the expense of, the LA Kings, who have fired a coach already this season. So maybe we knew that it was headed this way. And crazy to think that LA has a minus 27 goal differential, like, for a team that is supposed to be, if anything, stout defensively, doesn't give up much. Like, you can live with, like, not having huge offensive upside, but my goodness, like, for them to be a minus 27, it is not. That wasn't on the bingo card for them. And then the Seattle Kraken, hot and cold. Like, good start to the season. At different moments have wavered, and now 2-7-1 over their last 10. Not even Bobby McMahon can save the Seattle Kraken. DGB
scored at a 90-goal pace or whatever, or whatever he was with them until last night.
Yeah,
and how about this for how fast things can change? And this is weird because usually in an NHL playoff race, things don't change fast, right? It's that, oh, hey, we just went 8-2 in our last 10. Oh, we gained 1 point, over the teams we're chasing, and it that's the feeling we're used to. 5 games for each team ago, the San Jose Sharks were 3 points up on those Nashville Predators.
That's
5 games later, 5 wins for Nashville, 5 regulation losses for the San Jose Sharks. They're now 7 points back. Let's pour one out for one of the great stories in the league this year. The Sharks are not making the playoffs, which means, Macklin Celebrini, I'm sorry, you can't be on Hart ballots because your team did not sneak into the playoffs. Good season, kid. Try again next year.
See you in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they would have. Yeah, I think if they make the playoffs, he pushes his way onto a decent amount of ballots. What I was interested in, as far as the Celebrini Hart talk was concerned, is like what would have happened if they would have just missed. Like what would have gone on if they would have finished 2 or 3 points out of the
not
picture?
valuable. You're not valuable if your team misses by 1 point, and you may not be valuable if your team makes it by 30 points. But if your team makes it by 1 point,
Extra
you
value.
sir,
It would have
are
been
extraordinary
like
value. Even if you get swept in the first round, we don't talk about that part of it.
You know what it would have been like? It would have been like the Matthews 69 goal season, where if he scores 70, he wins the Hart. But because he got 69,
Sorry, bud.
he's only a Hart nominee. So he didn't win it that year. But 70, you have to win it.
Sounds like Sean McInerney's voting Celebrini no matter what. You're a Macklin Celebrini for Hart dead under.
I'd need to get my vote back, buddy. I keep the random selection of who gets to vote has just not gone my way for 6 straight years. But maybe this year, maybe this is the one.
This should be the year for you. And you know what? I was kind of thinking of it being the year for someone. I was calling Habs Hurricanes last night, and so much talk at morning skate in Montreal was about how do you play against the Hurricanes? How do you beat them? Like what's the recipe? Everyone knows the brand of hockey, right? Like there's such a brand of hockey associated with the Hurricanes. And last night in the first period, it was like signature Hurricanes hockey, where Montreal couldn't touch the puck. They're under duress. They're high flipping into the neutral zone. Carolina's jamming it right back down their throats. Eventually, it's a 2-0 lead. And here's where, like, I think Montreal has grown so much. And this is why, like, we don't even talk about them missing the playoffs the same way we talk about Boston, Detroit, Ottawa, the Islanders. Like, we haven't really mentioned Montreal as one of those teams that could fall out. Because for that 40 minutes that came after the first period, they took back the game. Like, against Carolina, who makes it so incredibly uncomfortable for you all over the ice. Goalie Dobish played great. You know, they played on the power play, which helped keep the flies off, but they didn't score on it. But then you're like, man, if that young, exciting team can respond like that against a veteran team that has been on the precipice of winning for a long time, we're right to not talk about them as one of those teams that is win or missing the playoffs, because, yeah, they're resilient, but they can back it up with the way that they actually reset themselves in a game where it was nowhere near going their way in the first 20 minutes.
But Frankie, I've heard whispers, and maybe you can confirm or deny that there may be a scandal brewing in Montreal based on last night's game. I heard that after that first period, in the intermission, Martin St. Louis went into the dressing room and he flipped the calendar ahead a couple of days and showed it to Cole Caufield and said, "Look, Cole, it's Saturday night again." And that activated Saturday Night Cole mode.
Yeah.
You can't be doing that. You can't have Saturday Night Cole 7 nights a week. The rest of the league is doomed if we're going to do that, because this guy might win the Rocket Richard, become the first Montreal Canadian to win the award named after the greatest Montreal Canadian. This kid's on fire. It's fun.
Yeah, he's exciting, man. He's like, he encompasses everything that's exciting about the team and the Bell Center and the atmosphere. And you're right. Like, the last time a Canadiens player won the scoring title, it was not called the Rocket Richard, and it was Guy Lafleur, and it was in the late 70s. Wow. I believe it was 77-78. And it was named the Rocket Richard Trophy in 98-99. He's got a very realistic chance. Like, I was going back through the numbers. Since the beginning of last season, he has the third most even strength goals in the NHL. Like, he's got 10 power play goals this year, which is good, but it's not like that's where he's making his living. And then goals per 60 minutes, he's number one in the NHL. He's like 2.10 or something like that, like 2.06, 2.10 goals per 60. Like, he's incredibly efficient with his shot selection, his ability to beat goalies. And I had Sport Logic dig this up for me before yesterday's game, so the numbers have changed a little bit. But out of the three guys going into yesterday's games who had 11 goals since the Olympic break, it was Caufield, Cutter Gauthier, Nikita Kucherov. Caufield was 105th in shot attempts. I believe it was 56 shot attempts. Gauthier and Kucherov were both in the top 15 in shot attempts. Like, they were in the 90s. So it's not like he's just like getting pucks and wasting them and shooting them from wherever. Like, he's a really efficient goal scorer. And yeah, he encompasses everything that's exciting about that Bell Center right now.
It's crazy. He's 2 points behind McKinnon. It's 46-44. That's where the goal total is at. And that includes McKinnon scoring last night too. So like, he just continually is making up ground. I said it last week, when we were putting together power rankings. We're just trying to figure out, players to watch. That was the gimmick last week. Like, one player to pay attention to on each team. And it's obviously Caufield for Montreal for that specific reason. Like, it's crazy that he was, at that point, he's down by 6 goals. I want to say it was 46 or I think it was 5. It was 45-40 was the edge that McKinnon had on him on that point. If you look at the way Caufield's played, and Frankie, if you look at the way that he was doing it, like you said, with tons of even strength goals, like not, just an efficient way of going about his business, you have to take it seriously that he could make up that ground. Because at that point, after the Olympic break, he'd scored 9 goals, right? Or eight times in 9 games, which was 3 more than McKinnon over that stretch. And McKinnon was playing great, right? So he's finding a way to make up ground, even though McKinnon's playing better, and that's continued into this week. So yeah, he's 2 goals behind him with tons of momentum on his side. We need to take it seriously that this dude's going to overtake him.
Yeah, and they've got that top line reunited. Like, they've put Slavkovsky back on the top line. It's been 9 games now that they've been together. They had a 13-point combined night on Saturday. They had another big night last night. Like, that line's a problem. The next level for that team is when they don't have to worry about should we or should we not put Slavkovsky with those guys, because if we don't have him with them, then we're a deeper team and it helps out our second line. So we'll kind of see how that tracks, but they got another big one tomorrow against the Blue Jackets, so that'll be exciting. And man, the Blue Jackets, like, they keep winning games. It's something, man.
Mm-hmm. Let's maybe save that for segment 2. We can talk a little bit more about Eastern Conference, maybe get into the Blue Jackets stuff. We'll do that after the break. All right, boys, we're back. We should talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. I feel like we've given them a decent amount of run here. We've talked about them periodically over their methodical climb through the standings since Rick Bowness took over. But I yesterday was a big deal for them. They beat the Flyers in regulation. They occupy a top 2 position in the Metro for the first time this season, period. They jumped Pittsburgh, who again lost in regulation to Colorado. The last time Columbus ranked in the top 2 in the Metro was 2021, and it was October of 2021. So it was four days into the season. I at some point in the last month, I was like, okay, this team's for real. As long as they can find a way to get enough points necessary to push their way in, I'm on board with them.
It's pretty crazy what's gone on. Rick Bowness is a wizard. Like, he's clearly got the magic touch when it comes to communicating with these players. But like, if you look at the guys that are having a lot of success in the last few months for Columbus, of course it's headlined by Zach Werenski. And if we talk about the Hart Trophy, of course we're going to talk about Nikita Kucherov. there's a pretty compelling argument to be made for Zach Werenski and what he's done for that team. But, like, Charlie Coyle's played really well. Kirill Marchenko's probably been their most consistent forward all season long, start to finish. Olivier's got 12 goals in the last couple months. Marchment, has 17 points in the last couple months. Boone Jenner's played fairly well, like half a point per game. And my takeaway with that is the guys that are hard to play against are point producers now on that team. And that's an imposing proposition for other teams where it's like those guys aren't just like buried on third and fourth lines. The guys that are kind of big and physical and can lean on you, they're also guys that get points. And that's helping them and making them a difficult out for a lot of teams that are playing them.
Isn't that something that Bowness is particularly good at, though? I feel like that, especially in the late era, Rick Bowness has turned into a guy who's we saw it in Winnipeg, certainly. He's good at getting points out of the entire lineup, right? Like you're in it from a variety of different player profiles. It was a big part of the Jets' success, and I feel like it's something that is ported over to Columbus.
Yeah,
he's been fantastic, and I wrote a piece last week about the Buffalo Sabres where I said this may be the single greatest bandwagon team in history, and I stand by that. But boy, in any other year, this Columbus Blue Jackets team would be at the top of the list because they're a fantastic story. And guys, 26 years of Columbus Blue Jackets history. Do you want to hear a sentence that has never, ever been uttered in the NHL?
What's that?
Welcome to Columbus for Game 1. Never, ever have they had home ice in a playoff series. And if the playoffs started today, which they don't, but they're right in that running. And, I don't know about in Pittsburgh, Sean, that I don't feel like the Blue Jackets necessarily rank all that high. But going the other way, the Penguins might be number one on the Blue Jackets list. They beat them a couple times in the playoffs.
It's maybe a little one-sided.
It's a little one-sided, but
Columbus hates Pittsburgh.
Well, we're not going to get into the Bill Simmons comments, are we? Remember that?
No.
Like, have we forgotten how far the Blue Jackets have come this year? Like, that was mid-November where they're bad, not off to a good start, and Bill Simmons out of nowhere drops this bomb and goes, most irrelevant franchise in North America, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Their biggest rival is the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Penguins don't even know they exist. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of it.
It's the Mad Men exchange with Don Draper and what's his face in the elevator. Where it's like I don't think about you at all, and that's absolutely the vibe between it was Sid versus Brandon Dubinsky for a while. That was like the thing that Columbus held on to, and it was just not that was a one-way street. And there was only one car on it.
If the Blue Jackets don't have a cardboard cutout of Bill Simmons in the dressing room, like Major League, and they're tearing a piece of clothing off each time that they win. Hey, you know what? We've all been saying that the turning point of that season was hiring Rick Bowness. Maybe it was the Bill Simmons comment. Let's go.
He was right. He's correct. They're like, look, we're going through all these numbers, right? Like they've never hosted a playoff game. Here's a good one. The only other season the Blue Jackets ranked in the top 2 of their division after the 70th game played was 2016-2017. So like they're in it in a way that they basically have never been before.
Yeah. That's who beat them that year?
Incredible. Yeah.
Which team ended the dream that year? It was the Penguins. And so it's this is beautiful. And I'm not, in fact, I'm going to get way out ahead of myself here. And I'm just going to run this by you guys. Okay. And I'm not this isn't a prediction. Don't come yell at me if it doesn't happen. Don't tell me I jinxed anything. But
it's not how it works.
If the 2 hottest teams in the Eastern Conference can get through their division and they meet in the conference final, if we get Columbus versus Buffalo in the conference final, tell me what you think of this, okay? This is what I'm calling it. Yarmogeddon. What do we think?
God.
Oh my
It's
god.
the best to
It
do it
writes
for a
itself.
reason, man.
It writes itself. If we get those two teams playing against each other, you know how broadcasts will have a camera outside before the game getting like scenic shots?
Mm-hmm.
The tailgate scenics that they are going to get from both of those fan bases are going to be unbelievable. It'll be NFL-esque, and it'll be happening in the NHL. And Bill Simmons can take his Columbus Blue Jackets take, and he can change it to the Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards or, sorry, Sean, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and stuff it. Because the Blue Jackets and their fans, they deserve this. Because that is a loyal fan base. When they had that down season, was it 2 or 3 years ago? They had a down season recently, and season ticket holders went up. They went up. Like, fans, and just like Buffalo, like, they've stuck by their team through some really rough times. So both those fan bases deserve what is happening right now for their teams.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the MVP race a little bit, Frank. You mentioned Nikita Kucherov a bit ago. Let's touch on that, because I feel like we're doing like a wrap up here to an extent. We're doing like a survey just of important stuff that's gone on around the league over the last couple of days. I feel like now there's been some kind of movement. There's been a pro Kucherov move here over the last few days where people are really starting to, not just note the play and not just say, wow, this is impressive and productive, and look at this, he's had a 45-game point stretch on par with, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, which is true. That's something that happened last week. I feel like the dialogue has shifted now where it's actually starting to talk about him potentially winning the Hart Trophy. It's not just, wow, this is a crazy, productive, impressive season from, a Hall of Fame player. It's more like, okay, this is true MVP stuff. Call me crazy, but I feel like there's been some kind of movement there.
Oh no, you're not crazy. This is very legit. What does he have? 104 points in his last 50 games, or something like that. Like I voted for Kucherov 2 years ago as my number one guy because he had like 51%. He was in on 51% of all of Tampa's goals that year. Like, and what he's doing in a league where, McKinnon has had his stretch, McDavid has had his stretch, and now Kucherov, he does it in such a different way, right? Like he's not thumping down the ice with his feet, like he's not blistering past 4 players like McDavid does, but he's so methodical in everything he does, and Tampa's been a really consistent team this season. I think it's hard to argue like how much he carries that team. Now, the one argument I'll make against Kucherov, and it's not really anything to do with Kucherov. I brought up Zach Werenski before, and Craig Button's kind of been banging this drum a little while now. But if you look at who like Werenski plays with, like he's playing with Severson, there's Dante Fabro, there's Provorov. Like, Kucherov is always going to have that notion that, hey, he's around Gensel, and he's around Point, and he's around Hedman, and it's like, really good team, some of the best players in the world. Like what Werenski's doing with Columbus, where he doesn't, he's not Cale Makar playing with Devon Taves. He's going to have he's going to be he should be a top 3 guy. But I think as of right now, it's tough to argue that Kucherov's not number 1.
And look, I mean, some of this MVP stuff does get into, I don't even want to say the narratives, but it's a long season, and the Hart Trophy is a season-long discussion. And I think that sometimes with a guy like Nathan McKinnon, people get a little bored of
100%.
the same guy being at the top of the list. Connor McDavid, similar in a way, and you look at the Oilers, the season they're having, I don't know, is their best player a league MVP? I mean, there's clearly an argument for it. But Kucherov is up there. But you're right. Like Zach Werenski should be in consideration. Rasmus Dahlin should be in consideration. And I've mentioned this many times before. There hasn't been a defenseman even be a Hart Trophy finalist since the year 2000. It is completely wild for a position that, when you're building a team, is the number one thing you look at. Does this team have that stud all-purpose blue liner. And with Dahlin, you look at not just how well he's played this year and how important he's been, but everything else that's gone with it, with the situation that he's had in his personal life and everything like that, and everything that him and his family have had to overcome. That isn't supposed to have anything to do with who wins the Hart Trophy, but it's kind of hard to ignore. And I think hopefully this is the year that, at the very least, we got a goalie to win the MVP last year. Can we please get a defenseman at least to be a finalist this year? And you don't have to, if you're a voter, you don't have to choose between Werenski and Dahlin, and then the rest of it is just the 4 leading scorers in the league. You're allowed to put both of them on the ballot. I checked. Put them both on there. Let's get one of them as a finalist.
Yeah. It's about time someone started sticking up for defensemen that wasn't a defenseman. Thank you.
There it is. Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, I think the timing on all this is right too, Sean. Like you said this a minute ago, but just to reiterate, like the Hart is a narrative-based award in a way that a lot of the other ones aren't. Like people are comfortable. We're looking at its stats when we're talking about the Selke or save. Like it's a lot easier to fall back on that stuff with a lot of the other awards. The Hart's different though, because if it weren't narrative based, we would just give it to Connor McDavid every year, and that's not what happens. It's not what happens in other sports either. LeBron James has won 4 MVP awards. You mean to tell me that dude hasn't been the most valuable player in the NBA 3 more times than that, like over the course of his career? People get tired of voting for the same people, and people get tired of hearing the same stuff. And I think what we're seeing this year is a coagulation of narratives that are going to push other people towards the top.
You know who changed the course of sports history? And I don't even know what league it was that was the first to have an MVP award, but whoever it was that sat down and said, I'm going to use the word valuable instead of just best player.
Outstanding or whatever. No.
That guy changed the way that we think about sports, because, you're right. If it was the best player award, oh, congratulations, LeBron. Here's your 15th trophy. Here you go, Connor McDavid, 10 years in a row. You're the best player in the league. Each and every year we can give it to you in October, but that's not it. And that leaves that wiggle room for, what exactly does value mean? And it's not spelled out when you get your ballot. It's not like they give you a whole paragraph saying this is what we mean by most valuable. It becomes this whole thing. Well, Taylor Hall had 80 points, but he got the Devils into the playoffs. So, maybe he's the MVP this year. And then, you go on down the list. It's a weird award. It leaves that wiggle room.
You know what's nuts? If I look back at like the points leaders from when I played in the league, like 80 to 85 points was like, oh my God, that guy's a stud. Are you kidding me? A point per game? It's so crazy how it's changed so much. But if McDavid, like you can't count out McDavid because obviously he's been very, very good. And if he continues to score goals similar to the one he scored last night for 400, he probably needs a few more of those. And maybe he puts himself, more at the top of the list. But it's a great fight. Like it's a great fight for the Hart Trophy, and McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov, Werenski, Dahlin. Like I don't know. There's a lot of names that are circling around it. I like that it's not one definitive name. Like I think the ballots are going to be really interesting.
They're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great.
It's a great fight, Frankie, and it's a real fight, not a pillow fight.
Right.
Which brings us back to McDavid and
here we are.
Division and those two. And boy, I'll tell you, I mean, we said McDavid MVP, and we'd said earlier, you got to make the playoff. The Oilers are not a lock yet, and the Vegas Golden Knights are really not a lock yet. Another, the Oilers got the win last night at least. Vegas didn't, and here we are where is it possible that for all of this talk about how lousy the Pacific is, that it could be an LA or a Seattle or something, if they win their games in hand, they are right there with the Golden Knights. What level of panic should we have in Vegas? Because that team cannot get a save.
Everyone said throughout most of this season, if they get half decent play from Aiden Hill, that's a dangerous team. Well, I mean, this is March 25th, and it hasn't happened yet. He's at 869. Aiden Hill is since the Olympic break. He's underwater and goals saved above expected. That's a flawed team in a lot of ways, but the goaltending is the primary issue here. And I think everyone is written kind of in pencil, like, yeah, as long as he gets as long as the goaltending gets right in one way or another, they'll be worth taking seriously and worth paying attention to. And it hasn't happened yet.
No, and think about this: if they even had a smidge of belief, they wouldn't have signed Carter Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they don't have Carter Hart, and they have to go with Aiden Hill at this point. And Akira Schmid is not like that's not a playoff viable option that helps you get to a Stanley Cup. So they have no choice now.
In fairness to Akira Schmid, like he's been better than Hill for the last chunk. But you like if you're a serious playoff team now, you
right. And now, okay, so Ottawa's got the worst save percentage in the league. Florida 31st. Well, Florida's out of it. And then it's Edmonton, and then it's Vegas. Like both those teams are right there. Like that's a lot to have to overcome when you don't play hockey the way the Senators do. Like Edmonton is not a good defensive team, and Vegas used to be, but it feels like when Vegas was good and they won that Stanley Cup, it's not like their decor was fast, but they were a little more mobile, and they were big. They could clog things up, but there's some different personnel. Not having Pietrangelo is obviously a big deal, and they're older now, and that doesn't help their shoddy goaltending.
And Rasmus Andersson has not been the answer there. That's been a bit of a bust, and yeah, I mean, just I'm stating the obvious here, but as a fan this time of year, you kind of check the standings and you look down at the bottom of those standings at the wild card races, and who are the teams holding down the wild cards? Who are the teams sitting in 9th, 10th place? Keep in mind, for teams like LA and Seattle, as rough as it's been lately, they've got two paths to the playoffs. They can catch Nashville for a wild card, or they can catch a Vegas for that 3 spot. And it's the same over in the East, where the Metro teams that are chasing have two paths in. The Islanders have got two paths. Even the Flyers, who that was a tough one last night.
That's a rough loss for them last night.
They've got two paths in versus the Detroit Red Wings, only one. The Red Wings can pass as many Metro teams as they like. It doesn't help them get in the playoffs. They've got to pass Atlantic teams, and this is another artifact of this weird playoff format, which is a whole other discussion we won't do today. But just keep that in mind.
That sounds like August to me, buddy.
There are a couple of different. Well, Gary Bettman's already said it's fine, so we don't have to worry about it. But I'm looking at the Dom's model has got. I think it's the Oilers at 87% chance to make the playoffs, Vegas at 88. So we're not overstating it to say that these teams are in crisis or something. They're both heavy favorites to make it in. But boy, I look at 87% chance of making the playoffs, and I see 13% chance of absolute catastrophic failure by a team that should be a Stanley Cup contender, potentially not making it in one of the worst divisions ever. That's the kind of thing that gets a whole lot of people on the unemployment lines, because teams have to radically rethink what they're doing. So you talk about the stakes being high about make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. They feel even higher than that in Edmonton and Vegas, because a lot is going to change in both of those markets if one of these teams stumbles down the stretch and actually gets caught by the Seattle Kraken or the LA Kings.
I wish the teams that were chasing them were a little bit more interesting. That's like the big asterisk here. It's cool that the Kings have a game in hand on Edmonton and Vegas. It's cool that Seattle has 2 games in hand on both of those teams. We're talking about 4 points to make up in LA's case, 6 to make up in Seattle's case. I would love to sit here and say, like, here they come, get ready. I'm not.
It's tough.
I'm not
Vegas and Edmonton play each other twice, including tomorrow night. They play each other twice down the stretch. If those are not 3-point games, that does potentially open a door. And Seattle also gets Vegas twice more in just about the final week of the season. So If you're the Kraken, you're sitting there going, we don't have to pass them next week. We just got to stay within 4 points, and then it's going to be the ball will be in our court.
It sounds like Sean McIndoe loves the Seattle Kraken. I think that's
Bobby
where we land
McMahon
here.
is there. That's
right.
the only reason. Many Leaf greats, Bobby McMahon and Jared McCann. That is why DGB loves the Kraken.
Long time Leafs legend, Jared McCann.
That's right. The one that got away.
The one that got away.
Yeah. One. Yeah, the one of
the
many.
One
just the one.
Many.
Yeah, just the one.
Yeah.
Frank, you sticking in Montreal for a couple of days, are you?
Yeah. We got the Blue Jackets here tomorrow, and then back home. And Montreal will be actually they got to play Carolina again on Sunday. They have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. Nashville, Carolina, and then into Tampa next week. So busy for them and busy for everyone. Busy for all of us, buddy.
Schedule's ridiculous. Whatever. All right. I'll be watching Blue Jackets Canadians tomorrow. I think that's SG's game of the night.
All right, love it.
I'm gonna try to watch other feed though.
That's gutless. That's completely
Columbus feed. Take it easy, bud.
See you, bud.
All right, we're back. There goes Frankie. Sean McIndoe. Here's something I learned.
What have we learned, Sean?
It's courtesy of the NHL PR Twitter feed. We love a great fake stat around here, as we always bring up. This is one of the greatest. It's about Nikita Kucherov. I know we talked about him in segment 3, but who cares? Can't be talked about enough. He's going to win the Hart, as we discussed. Nikita Kucherov passed Paul Caufield and Bobby Orr for the second most consecutive 80-assist seasons in NHL history as he continues to build a gap atop the points list this season. Again,
second most
consecutive 80-assist seasons in NHL history. He's got 4 now. And also he's 4th in most 120-point seasons, which is a significantly less fake stat. Yeah. Second most consecutive 80-point or 80-assist seasons is wild work. Salute.
Do they even bother to tell you who's first in the tour, or is it just assumed?
They don't. That was why I like paused, because I was like, wait, here's a list in front of me. Gretzky's at the top. They didn't even do the full list. It was just most 120-point seasons in the graphic below this. So they couldn't even commit to the bit and say who had the most consecutive. I mean, we all know it's Gretzky, but they didn't even go with the graphic there. They went with the graphic for the actual relevant thing, which is 120-point seasons. And again, he's got 4, which is 6 most, tied for 6 most all time. That is a real stat. Consecutive 80-point assist seasons is very regrettably, as funny as it is not.
Have to rule that a fake stat. I learned that I've got to do something I don't like to do, which is give some credit to the schedule maker in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how much fun last night was. 15 games last night. And I'm not going to give last night an A+. I'm going to give it an A only because of the 2 teams that didn't play. One was the Rangers. That's fine. They don't want to be playing, so nobody wants to be watching it. But the other team that didn't play last night was Buffalo, and I mean, it can't be an A+ night without everyone's favorite team involved. But we get 3 more 15-game nights over the rest of the season, and it's each and every Saturday night from here on in. 15 games, no 16-game nights, but 15 games each night. And you know what? Yes, that leads to a few of those like 2-game Fridays that nobody seems to like, but I don't mind it because it's 15 games. I'm saying Saturday nights, but it's day games too. They have packed Saturday night. This league is planting a flag and saying for the next few weeks we're going to own Saturdays, and that's the way it should be. I like it. This is going to be a lot of fun heading down the stretch.
Are there any 15-game Thursday nights?
I don't think so. I think it's just the Saturdays. You're not a Thursday guy?
I mean, I don't. You could play 100 games on Thursday night at this point. I wouldn't care because that's the night we do power rankings, and
that's
it's just
right.
It's busy. It's busy and kind of annoying no matter what. So it doesn't
How
matter
much
to
do
me.
you guys do that? Because I sit there and write my when I'm writing the Monday rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I have been accused sometimes of, you don't pay enough attention to the Pacific teams or whatever. And, not this year because for obvious reasons, but I got to be honest, man. You could have the greatest story going. If you've got a 9:30 Eastern game on a Sunday night, you're not getting prime real estate in the weekend rankings.
Happening.
And I can only imagine for you guys when they pack the schedule on Thursdays.
It's like whatever's written is written. We'll make adjustments for the placement maybe based on the result, but we're not.
Anytime you're reading a power rankings and you see like this team's garbage, they stink, they're terrible. Although they did look good last night when they beat the Avalanche. Parenthetical,
like although they did beat the Wild 6-3 on.
If the editors ever hang us out to dry and leave the whole if they win put this if they win please put they're an absolute unit and nobody can beat them, and if they lose please put this paragraph about how they're a paper tiger and just figure it out.
No, the main reason I ask is that we've had 15 game Thursdays, right? Mm-hmm. But like nobody wants that. Give us 15 game Saturdays. It's the weekend.
Well,
fine.
I mean,
come on.
They can't
it's easier to spread out the starts.
Yeah, they can't do it early, right? Because Saturday's college football, and even the last little while busier for March Madness and stuff like that. But now's the time. Take your shot. I don't know what the logic is behind not doing the full 16 games. Maybe they just want to keep that as like a special thing that they kind of brand earlier in the year. But 15 games on a Saturday, there's going to be a lot of Saturday mornings where you wake up thinking you know one thing about the playoff race, and by Sunday morning, it's going to look an awful lot different, and that's cool.
This has been Sean McIndoe's salute to the league office and the league scheduler.
Sean Shills for the NHL. It's a weekly feature here where I pick something this league does right.
Yeah, coming up next week, goalie interference calls starring Justin Brazo.
Crystal clear, and the playoff format, kind of fun.
We love it,
and also the best officiating in the world. Don't you forget it.
Thank you, buddy.
Make sure the check clears, Gary.
Mm-hmm. You just send a briefcase of money for me.
That's right. Yeah.
Not much of a check guy. Thank you, McIndoe. Thank you, Corrado, in Montreal somewhere. There are only 2 games tonight. There are not 15.
There's
Boston's
one game tonight.
There is.
Rangers Leafs does not. If you're watching Rangers Leafs tonight, get help.
Yeah. So you'll be watching Rangers Leafs tonight.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'll be all over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Boston and Buffalo. That's the fun one.
It's a good one.
It's Boston Bruins need to do some work. I feel like we didn't talk about them much in the mix of Eastern Conference teams that
losing to the Leafs is
how humiliating. How humiliating.
That's terrible.
Couldn't be me. Thank you, buddy. Do you have a post going up today?
I got a post up today about those very same Leafs. How to watch the Toronto Maple Leafs when they are not worth watching whatsoever. Because the Maple Leafs have not played a stretch like this in 10 years, where they have no playoff implications, nothing to play for. This is new for some of these younger Leaf fans. So I found a grizzled, crusty, cranky old veteran in the mirror, and he's got some tips for you on how to watch an absolute tire fire of a Maple Leafs season play out.
That's one that I'm going to read, and midway through I'm going to say, why am I reading this? Because I'm not going to watch the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like McIndoe's work that much. What can I say? Take it easy, bud.
You too.
Thank you, folks. That'll do it for us. We're back next week, the 3 of us. I am back tomorrow with Haley. Enjoy the game. Again, there's only just the one. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.